The splash was so sudden it stole the air from her lungs, a violent crash of water and shock that erased sound for a heartbeat. One moment, Nurse Alina Reyes was standing at the edge of the hospital CEO's immaculate indoor pool, trying to explain a missing consent form. The next, she was falling, arms flailing, white shoes flashing, into dark, churning water that hid a secret no one had warned her about. The screams came late, not hers, his. The pool was a showpiece, all glass walls and blue lights, a symbol of Victor Harlan's wealth and power. He loved showing it off during charity galas, boasting about how rare and exotic the fish were. What he didn't advertise was that the pool wasn't for swimming at all. It was a living display. Piranhas, sleek and fast, flashed beneath the surface like silver knives. Alina hit the water hard, pain rippling through her back. Training took over before panic could. She kicked upward, breaking the surface, gulping air. Her eyes locked on Harlan's face above her, pale now, twisted in shock. He hadn't meant this. He had meant to humiliate her, maybe scare her. He hadn't thought past his anger. The piranhas circled. Alina's heart hammered, but her mind stayed clear. She had worked 12 years in trauma wards. She had held pressure on wounds while bullets were still being pulled from bodies. Panic never saved anyone. She forced herself to float, slow and still, knowing sudden movement could trigger the fish. The water vibrated with life beneath her, the sensation like electricity brushing her skin. "Help!" Harlan shouted, his voice cracking. Someone help her, but the doors were locked. Privacy, he'd called it. Control. Alina looked up at him, water dripping from her hair into her eyes. "Open the emergency gate," she said evenly. "Now." I don't know how," he stammered, backing away as if distance could undo what he'd done. "Security handles that." "Then call them," she said. "And stop screaming. You're making it worse." Her calm unsettled him more than the danger. This was a man used to authority bending reality. Now reality was staring back at him with teeth. As they waited, Alina's thoughts drifted, not to fear, but to the long path that had brought her here. She remembered being a nursing student, working night shifts to pay tuition, swallowing insults from doctors who thought compassion was weakness. She remembered her mother's words after her father died in an understaffed clinic: "Someone has to stay human in places like this." Harlan hadn't stayed human. He had turned the hospital into a corporation, patients into numbers, staff into disposable tools. Alina had challenged him earlier that day during a board walkthrough, refusing to discharge a man who couldn't afford post-op care. Harlan had smiled thinly, asked her to step aside, and when she didn't, this happened. The piranhas brushed closer. One nicked her shoe, a sharp tap that sent a shiver through her legs. Alina lifted her feet slowly, keeping her body vertical. Her arms began to ache. Minutes stretched. Harlan paced, hands shaking as he shouted into his phone. "This is my pool. Someone answer." "You need to listen to me," Alina called up. "There's a valve on the west wall. Red handle. It releases feed." "What?" he snapped, then stopped. "Feed." "Yes," she said. "Dump it in the far corner. It'll distract them." He froze. "How do you know that?" "I read the safety report you ignored," she replied. Something broke in him then, not just fear, but realization. She wasn't beneath him. She was the reason the place still worked at all. Harlan ran to the wall, fumbling until he found the handle. He pulled. Pellets spilled into the water, rippling outward. The piranhas surged away from Alina in a sudden silver blur. "Now," she said. "The ladder. Lower it slowly." He did as he was told, kneeling, hands trembling as he eased the ladder down. Alina swam carefully, every muscle burning, and climbed out. The moment her feet hit the tile, her legs gave out. She collapsed, coughing, water streaming from her scrubs. Harlan dropped beside her. "I'm so sorry," he said, the words tumbling over each other. "I didn't mean." "I was angry. I didn't think." She looked at him, truly looked. The powerful CEO was gone. In his place was a frightened man who had nearly killed someone and couldn't undo it. "You pushed me," she said quietly. "That wasn't an accident." Sirens wailed in the distance. Security would be here any second. So would consequences. "I'll do anything," Harlan said, grabbing her sleeve. "Anything. Just, please." Alina pulled her arm free and pushed herself upright. "Then listen," she said. "Listen for once." Security burst in, followed by administrators and medics. Questions flew. Alina answered calmly, fact by fact. She didn't exaggerate. She didn't need to. By morning, the story had spread. A nurse, a CEO, A pool of piranhas. Public outrage exploded. An investigation was launched. Board members demanded answers. Staff who had been silent for years found their voices. Harlan resigned before noon. Alina took a week off, her body bruised, her sleep haunted by water and flashing silver. When she returned, the hospital felt different. People looked at her with a mix of respect and something like gratitude. Policies changed. Patient care funds were restored. Safety audits were enforced. Months later, Alina stood in the same atrium where it had all begun, now filled with sunlight and quiet. She wasn't a hero, she told herself. She was just someone who refused to sink quietly. The pool was gone. In its place was a rehabilitation center, open to anyone who needed it, regardless of what they could pay. A plaque by the entrance read, "Care is courage." Alina smiled and walked back to her ward, steady and unafraid, carrying with her a truth the hospital would never forget. Power means nothing without humanity, and even in the deepest, darkest water, calm and conscience can save a life.